You know, trout don't always come up to the surface just to eat small things. They just don't come up to sip down an adult caddis, an adult mayfly, or an adult chironid. There are food sources that bring them up to the surface where they exhibit a much more aggressive, explosive response. Let me show you a fly that's going to trigger one of those rises. Hello everyone, I'm Phil Rowley and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you've been here before, thanks for dropping by once again. If this is your first time visiting, I provide fly tying and fly fishing video content that I hope makes your next day on the lake just that little bit more enjoyable. Today we're tying a Suspender Minkie. This is my variation of a classic and productive English stillwater pattern designed to be used when trout are at the surface slashing at minnows. If you've ever experienced trout feeding on minnows in the shallows, it's breathtaking. Fish slashing and rolling and boiling, minnows jumping and for their life, scared to death. If you put a fly in the middle of that melee that creates a wake and looks like an injured minnow, you're going to get an explosive rise that almost stops your heart. Join me at the bench and I'll show you how to tie your own Suspender Minkie so you can experience this for yourself. One of the most enjoyable things to do when trout are chasing minnows in the shallows, I mean skinny water, less than 2 feet deep, 3 feet deep max, is take them on a surface fly right on the top. And one of my favorites is my variation of an English pattern called the Suspender Minkie. So let's tie it for you. So I've got a size 8 Daiichi 1760 in the jaws of the vise. You could tie it into 10, you could tie it as big as a 6. Just try and match the general size of the minnows the trout appear to be chasing. I'm going to start with some white tying thread. This is 6/0. You could use 140. You want some firm thread, or stronger thread rather, because you're going to do some, we're going to tie some foam in and things like that. You want to be able to put some thread pressure on there without the risk of breaking your thread, or in the case of foam, really narrow thread can actually slice right in and cut through the foam. So we're just going to cover that shank with tying thread. We're going to come right back up near the hook eye, and we're going to tie in the suspender post, which is about 7mm booby foam, and I'm just going to come in with my scissors, and I've trimmed it on an angle like so, and I'm going to turn this around, and I'm going to move the thread back a little bit and hold that angle like so, and just get that tied in. Good firm thread wraps, and then just advance the thread forwards, almost cross over, and just again, and tighter, tightest when you're tying in this foam. Don't try and reef on it with the strongest wraps right away. Just get progressively tighter to sort of constrict those thread wraps around the foam and reduce the chance of cutting through the foam with your thread or breaking your tying thread. So we want that right there, and then we can pull it back like so, and we've got that, that's tied in, that's going to hold up. This is going to suspend the fly, so you'll see this as like a little cider post. We're just going to trim that off, just like so. So it's going to sit on the surface, and the body of the fly, the minnow portion of the fly, is sitting below. So the next thing we're going to do is tie in some ribbing material, some small silver UTC wire. This is going to be used to secure the minky strip, zonker strip of mink we're going to use. You can certainly use rabbit as well, but I like the mink because it's just got a not so tall a profile to match some of the minnows I find in my home waters, which are traditionally fathead minnows and brook stickleback. So we've got that tied in place. Then we're going to tie in the body material, and that you could dub it, but I just use a silver metallic chenille like this. I'm going to strip off the fibers with my thumb and forefinger to expose the core. Tie that in. Take that all the way up. And just wind that forward in close touching turns, just to make a nice silver body. You can always tie these with gold as well. It would be another good color. have a mixture of them, or pearl. And again, you could also dub it, but the crystal chenille for me is just a fast way of getting these things built. So you can get away from the bench and back on the water and get a fish to come up and take them. And then we're going to use for the wing, if you will, or the micro mink zonkers, in this case dark olive. You could tie them in olive, brown, all white would be another good combination. So we're just going to tie in this zonker strip so the natural fur on the zonker flows backwards. Come right in and just tie that in right behind, like so. Then I'm going to take a half turn of my silver wire, moisten my fingers, and stand up the zonker strip and kind of part little gaps in it and navigate that wire through. And we're going to use the wire to secure this zonker strip down the back. And if you don't have mink handy, of course rabbit would certainly work as well. So we're just going to weave that through. And we're trying to make sure, just rotate it over, that we're not trapping too many fibers, if any, on the other side. So just always take your time, part that hair right in the front, come through, and then one last wrap up at the top. And this just secures that down and adds some durability, so because the takes to this fly are seldom subtle, as with any minnow imitation. So we're just going to tie that off, pull that along. We can come in, and I'm going to trim this about the same length of the shank, and I'm just going to come up from underneath and saw through that mink like so. The next thing I'm going to do is put a little red throat under this fly, and I'm going to use some Senyo's laser dub in red, SL310. I'm just going to pluck a little bit out of the package like so, kind of just reposition it and align the fibers. Not very much, very sparse amount. I'm just going to lay this on the tying thread like so, double it around and suck it in and secure it on the underside of the shank like so. And then I'm going to come in and just trim just like so. So I've got a little red throat, nice and subtle, suggests maybe an injured bait fish, or the red gill area of frightened or startled bait fish, or just a little hot spot, attractor point for fish to come in and track this fly. And then we're going to put a little soft hackle on here. You don't really have to, but I just like a little bit of transition. You could certainly even dub squirrel or mink, depending on what you're using for the zonker strip. But I'm just going to use a soft hackle, a Brahma hen soft hackle here, maybe a little oversized so it'll flow and move. We're just going to add some movement into the fly. So I've selected a whiting Brahma hen saddle right here. I love these saddles. I'm just going to strip away and expose the stem. Bring that thread right back to the base of the wing. Take my prepared hackle, tie it in so that most prominently marked curve side is facing me, wet fly style if you will. Trim off that excess stem. Take a half turn positioning wrap. Make sure that the feather is going to face the right way, which is that prominently marked side, and I'm just going to sweep that and just take a turn or two, play with the fibers just to get them to flow back. This is just to add some movement. I'm going to come in, a couple of wraps to tie this off, release the hackle pliers, and I'm trying to part these fibers if I can so they'll flow down and underneath. I'm going to grab everything and tuck them back and place a few wraps to secure them. Dig out that tip, snap it away. Like so. And if I want, I can even take, this is sort of a judgment call, but I'm just going to take another little clump of squirrel here, sorry, mink, right off the hide. Tie that little clump in right on top. Just add a little bit more movement to the top of the fly. Again, this is sort of a judgment call you can do. So, moisten everything. Now I'm just going to give a little bit more redness to the fly by taking a red Sharpie and both sides of the thread to turn it red. And we're just going to build that up. And whip finish. And you could fish this fly as is right now, but what we're going to do is put some eyeballs on it. Ouch, stabbed myself. It's not the way to get the red on the thread. So, for the eyes, I'm just going to use some stick-on eyes. These are 1/8 inch diameter, and these are a gold iris, I think they call it, with a black pupil. And I'm just going to use my dubbing needle to select an eye from the backing, get that on, and I'm going to come in and just pinch and hold that in there. Again, I'm using just sweeping everything back into position, because now I'm going to take some Solera's medium viscosity resin. I'm going to rotate this fly on its side, drop it down a little bit so you can see a little better, and just put a little dollop, let that settle out, right over the eye, come in, cure it. And then I'm going to do the same for the other side. Come in, use my bodkin or dubbing needle to remove another eye. Just slide that underneath. Just train those fibers to flow back, because they're going to get held back a little bit. And put another drop of resin right on that eye. So hold those other fibers back in place. Come up and cure it. And then to finish it off, a little drop if I can right there, and just let gravity work it in there, or you can take a dubbing needle and cure it up. What we're trying to do is encapsulate the eyes with the resin without making too much mess. I have to do this horizontally. I'm just going to use a dubbing needle to apply this last application. It's just going to sit there, and I can just use that to hold the fibers in and quickly cure it. And there you have it, the finished Suspender Minkie. Perhaps not my best application of UV resin I've ever done, but certainly functional. Allows me to get out on the water. Again, you can see those eyes are kind of encapsulated. You can add a little bit of security too if you wanted, by just taking the bone dry resin and placing that over each eye as well, just to fill in any gaps and make sure that those eyes are completely encapsulated with the resin. Again, just keeping it horizontal so it doesn't flow all over the place. But there you have it, a completed Suspender Minkie minnow. Give it a try the next time you see fish on your local lake busting minnows. Just floating line or a midge tip. You could use this in a washing line arrangement too, so use this fly to hold up another minnow pattern or a leech or some other pattern. And just strip this back, let it make a wake, let it settle, make a wake, let it settle, and wait for the explosive rise.